Okay, we are live. Welcome back to the Hill of Roses, where we come once again to celebrate the best independent contributors to our policy movement for progress to bring power to people like you. With us today on the program, we're bringing on more of the Hill of Roses contributors. So today, we're going to be talking with Grayson Asboth as well as Michael Leone. We are going to be discussing the Trump campaign strategy for 2020. And so, with that being said, there's going to be a lot to get into. We encourage you all to take a moment to share these videos so that more people can get involved in the chat and hear our discussion on the Trump campaign strategy, as well as being able to ask us some questions along the way that we will potentially field if we like any of the questions that we see from you all. So, with that being said, let's get into it. Okay, so we are live here. We got ourselves Michael as well as Grayson. Hello to you both. It's been a pleasure working with you all, and it's going to be a great conversation today on the subject of Trump. I first wanted to ask Grayson. Grayson was the one who, frankly, raised this conversation topic. And so, Grayson, I wanted to hear why, in your opinion, this is such an important topic for us to be able to discuss today.
Well, because for one, it is upcoming to the election. We are 63 days away, something like that. And so, uh, I was just thinking maybe we should see how the opposition does things and see if we can actually learn anything by it and get into, and maybe even take some stuff from that for later election confident enough potentially, and also see if where it works and where it doesn't.
Yeah,
So,
and I think the timing of this conversation is also pretty decent. We just had the RNC convention this past week, and so I think the timing of this conversation makes a lot of sense. Michael, do you want to take a moment to just introduce yourself to the folks out there? We've had Grayson on the program previously. Can you let everyone else know a little bit about yourself? Michael, it sounds like you're on mute right now.
Okay, yeah, totally my bad there. Yeah, hi, I'm Michael Leone. I'm from the Chicago suburbs. Actually, I'm guess that now my area is somewhat relevant. I'm literally like 20 minutes away from Kenosha. So it's been a pretty interesting last few weeks, to put it lightly. But yeah, I mean, I'm a political science student, and I'm a senior now at DePaul University. I'm very interested in things like democracy reform. I'm trying to think about how to put this. I don't know. The horse race is my best friend. I like to think of it myself as like a horse race whisperer, if you will. But I don't know. Elections are super fascinating to me. They're so important to get all the agenda that you advocate for, get it all passed. We got to focus on all the elections. I kind of think that we hyperfixate on the presidency a little bit, but also there's, like you said, there's a lot to talk about. The RNC, not in the RNC. Trump's campaign, they just released all their what they're planning to do. So I'm totally here for it. Yeah.
Okay, so I think the first place to start, as I alluded to beforehand, is we did have the convention from this past week. And I wanted to hear what your takeaways were of what you thought some of the key themes that the Trump campaign brought up during this convention that they're going to continue hammering down come the fall. Michael, what were some of the themes that you had noticed in the campaign? And do you think those themes are going to be particularly effective?
Yeah, well, I think that the number one thing I really saw out of the convention was wow, that's a lot of Trumps to that. I'm not gonna lie, the convention it feels every day is so long, and it feels kind of it feels slightly like a blur at this point. But a lot of the takeaways were that I think that Republicans were not as energized as people would like to say, just from the overall speakers. I think there was a few pretty compelling people. There was an anti-abortion person. I'm pretty I'm pretty staunchly like pro-choice myself, but like I can like rhetorically like understand where she was coming from for sure. She was like literally like a former like Planned Parenthood worker, and like she was like I'm like I don't agree with this, but I mean it's like I don't agree with like what you're saying, but I can definitely see why people can like go into that. And also, actually, at the RNC, something that that's really important to note is that there were a bunch of people from Minnesota, basically, that endorsed them, and even like former like Democratic mayors and stuff. So like they're definitely like putting a lot of chips in order to like try to flip that state, especially because they might lose like Michigan or something. So it's pretty that was my main takeaway actually. So yeah.
Okay, and Grayson, how about yourself? What were some of your takeaways
And
from the
my
art?
takeaway is that they were trying to go into sort of the Trump's 2016 campaign where it was like trying to like make the rural West Belt a key thing with like with like the males that were endorsing him. That and also they were trying to go into a fairly conservative thing as well, like generally like pro police and anti abortion um and all and other conservative positions that I can't really name off the top of my head. But I think it was mostly to try and it was definitely trying to make the case that Trump is supposed to be just this more competent person or just better person than what the media would have you believe. I don't know how that sticks as well because I'm not a good judgment of character, to be honest.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I thought some of the key themes that I had heard from this convention were, frankly, one, they really wanted to emphasize choice arguments, whether it be, right to choose laws, whether it be school choice, whether it be, frankly, this whole kind of anti-socialism approach. They kind of frame it in a choice manner. And furthermore, to your point, Grayson, I think you're absolutely right that they were trying to show him as a little bit more warm and genuine compared to what I think this perception is. And I think also to Michael's point, I think that there was, frankly, a large effort to try and focus in on like these key swing areas that they're trying to bring in. And I think the biggest takeaway is clearly they want to be the law and order party. I wanted to hear, in your opinion, do you think that the RNC holistically was a more effective or less effective event than the DNC? Michael, what'd you think?
Yeah, well, can I just say something first? Like, oh my gosh, like I totally remember this. Like when it was like the number one takeaway from the RNC for me was definitely like the ending. Like after Trump spoke, I don't know if you watched it at all. Well, most people turn off their television, but it was just this Italian opera singer, and just like it literally went on for like 30 minutes, and it was the most tone deaf thing I've ever seen. Like they were just singing like Ave Maria and everything.
I will admit, I do love that song, though. I will caveat that, but you're right.
That's what makes it hurt that much more. Like it was just this opera singer like serenading these like dozens of people, not socially distanced, no masks at all, just these like rich bigwigs. Like one of my biggest gripes personally is like where people will be like the virus doesn't discriminate based on like income, like race and stuff. I mean, it very clearly does. First of all, and just like you have the best access to healthcare if you're rich. Like, I mean, yeah, you're putting so many others at risk, and you're not really going to be nearly as affected by it as them. So it's just kind of messed up to me. That's a little bit of a side note, but yeah. So like for the you're asking if the DNC or the RNC was more like productive, right? Yeah. Well, first off, I just want to say, and I saw the polling. The polling shows so far that the DNC was literally polling at like 20 approval, something like that, compared to the RNC. That's the first thing. That's not everything. DNC was also more watched though, like except for one night. But I genuinely think that Biden was. I think the DNC was extremely uncontroversial, and it would a lot of us are a lot of other people's gripes with it was that it was like boring above all. And so I mean that's like everyone's gonna always try to complain about something, and that's a pretty good thing to get people to fixate on, honestly.
Yeah, and to your point, I also think one of the effective parts of the DNC, this might bug some of the progressives. We've certainly heard it online, but there is much more of a showcase or desire for unity compared to like finger pointing that existed at the RNC. And it also reminded me of one other key theme that I thought came out of this convention, which is frankly, the RNC made a very concerted effort to try and appeal to the Black community. I think they tried to make a very strong effort. I think it was Tim Scott kind of kicked it off. And then they had several other elected leaders. Like if you were watching the RNC,
they had Bernie Jones.
You would have expected that the Republican Party is half Black or something to that effect. And so I thought that was another key theme. But Grayson, let me let you into this. How did you feel about the effectiveness of the RNC versus the DNC?
Well, I'm not can't fully judge because I didn't see much of the DNC. Though it depends on what you saw at the DNC. I mean, RNC that really serves its effectiveness. Like, I think if you, like, night 2, I would argue was the best one because that's when they really hammered into this working class idea where they had several working class people explain their reasons for supporting Trump. And the DNC, I think they had one farmer who explained why the tariffs were hurting farmers, but then other than that, didn't really go into it. So I think and they did a lot, like as you said, a lot of Minnesota people. So I think what they're doing is they're trying to is that it depends where you are in the country that would be effective. I think it would, like, the DNC was mostly effective in more urban areas, and the RNC would be effective if you lived in a rural area.
I generally agree with you. I had even made mention of that on Twitter that I thought, despite disagreeing with the policies that they brought up, I thought that they were trying to signal a much more working class appeal. They brought on several people, whether it be lobsters, whether it be loggers. They very much tried to center the conversation around the working class. And I think more so than just a working class message, they really tried aiming on a lot of this populism with the idea of just continuing to clean up the swamp, being the anti-war party. But I think I still have to agree with Michael. I thought the DNC was just, when you look at the metrics, it was a little bit more effective in gaining viewership and gaining approval rating. And I think it kind of, in a time of so much division, it kind of focused on trying to bring people together instead of doing that finger pointing exercise. And I think a lot of people are looking for that. And so I'd love to ask you both, obviously, we're close upon the first round of debates that are going to be upcoming. I'd love to hear, in your opinion, what you think Donald Trump needs to do to shake up the race in his favor. Do you think that's possible, or are we at a dead set? People are kind of locked in right now. Michael, how do you feel?
Well, I just want to say I just want to say a few things to the points that were just brought up first. I just want to say you talked about the prominence of African Americans. I'm not gonna. I'm just going to say like Black for like the purpose. It's just for simplicity's sake. Yeah. It's there was like, I hate to be on the whole polar coaster thing, but there were some polls released like in the last few days with Trump legitimately at like 20% support from African Americans. That's like genuinely like,
I've seen those.
He will win in a landslide if that is true. Holy cow! Like so
those same polls, no, they actually had Biden still winning. The big thing is that Biden, unlike Hillary, has been able to win over more of the white working class base and older voters. So I totally agree with you. I've seen those polls. Biden is starting to lose some of that Black and Hispanic base, but he's trying to make it up somewhere else.
That it's like happening. I still have to like see more trends to like believe it. But if it is indeed true, and it's like there are trends out there, it's a snapshot, not like past or present. But that's like that's just half of what I wanted to say to address everything. I just wanted to say what Trump's actual like what he's trying to do in terms of like the electoral college, like because they had a whole like tweet storm about that, like so The number one thing is that they're only trying to flip one of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. That's they only need one, and then they're trying to flip Minnesota, New Hampshire, and Maine. So that was
Yeah.
those were the it's like so it's pretty interesting. I have a lot of things to say on that, but it I actually I can't entirely remember what the original thing was.
Yeah, the original question was, what do you think Trump should be thinking about coming into the debates?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I feel bad. I feel bad giving him giving him tips in some ways, but at this from a
I assure you, Donald Trump will probably not end up hearing this.
yeah, no, absolutely. Like, if a lot of the sad thing is that a lot of my critiques, I had to say, like, he'd have to lie in some way. But I don't know. I think that he probably I think that he has to. I think he really has to go in all in on his on the honestly he has to go all in on his like white support in a lot of ways. Like he really needs to drive out of the turnout because the suburbs are not looking good for him at all, and like so many like congressional races. Sorry, I've been talking for a while. I'll just give Grayson the nod. My bad.
That's quite all right. But Grayson, do you want to give some of your thoughts on what you think Trump needs to be doing?
Well, he did lay out a strategy that I think is pretty clear. He's trying to hold when it comes to his 2016 results, he's trying to hold that except with the exception of going after one of the three states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. And
my guess is Pennsylvania, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah, or West, either. But I would say that he's going to try and hold the states that are going to be seen as the flippable states. So, like Georgia, he's going to try and hold that. Though if he's polling with 36 at 17% with blacks, I don't see Georgia being the most flippable.
Yeah.
I mean, if Florida, he's going to hold that. That's going. He's trying to hold Arizona too, and I think if he can hold those states, win one of those three Rust Belt states, and flip Minnesota, that will probably get him to the required electoral college points to win.
So then, Grayson, I have to ask, what do you think he'll be doing at those debates to try and target those states? Like, what do you think actually does that? Is it just mentioning the state? Do you think there are any key issues that he'll bring up?
Well, I'm not entirely sure what he will do, but there are definitely things I think that will help him maybe. Like, I think what he's really going to have to do is hammer on the fact that the Dems are going to have to be selling Kamala Harris. And I think what you could do in theory is that make him become the president because Biden's old. And then what they can do is they can do what George Bush did to Michael Dukakis in 1988 and just make him seem like a guy that Americans can't trust. And there's certainly some things they have on Kamala.
Sure. So, Michael, how do you
Can I
feel
say
about
something?
that? Do you think that'll work?
Yeah, well, I actually I had a few epiphanies like during that. Well, first of all, the number one, okay, I thought about it, and the number one advice I would give to Trump is work with his down ballot candidates. The sad thing is, like I don't know if you know Laura Loomer at all. Like she won the thing. She's literally just in Trump's congressional district. She's the Republican running, so that hurts him a lot. But I was like in Florida where he like switched his registration there, like to like attempted to flip it, but the Dems have an absolute army of like down ballot candidates. Like it's like fucking crazy. Like I genuinely have them as winning Texas because like of how many there's legitimately like a dozen House races they're trying to flip right now. They're trying to flip the state House. They're saying that if that's possible, that's insane because of redistricting. That's like because like that's the number one thing. Like Democrats are mad. They're literally going to do everything they can to try to flip the Wisconsin and like Georgia legislatures because and like even Ohio stuff because if they don't, then they're just screwed for another 10 years in these states pretty much because of gerrymandering. It's genuinely like the worst thing ever, and so I think the Democrats are like really freaking energized right now, honestly. Like, and that's the number one thing I look at. Like, before I actually look at the presidential race, I actually look at the down ballot stuff first, because like that's the thing with like there's states like Arizona. Like, if Trump wants to flip Maine, that's gonna be really hard when Susan Collins is on the ballot, essentially, like the most unpopular senator running as a Republican, like that, and like Arizona is going to be really hard because of Martha McSally and just things like I just look at the down ballot stuff and like go upwards from that pretty much. But, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a chicken and egg scenario. I know a lot of people have traditionally said that, when you have a winning presidential ticket, that kind of flows all the way down the ballot. It's kind of interesting hearing this kind of reverse approach, which I think there is some merit, because they're the people on the ground in the district. And yes, they're making a case for their Senate and House candidates. But if you swing someone to a Democrat, it's very often people don't think much and they just vote along the entire line.
Yeah,
so certainly help.
I'll just say something to that. Like, that's kind of one of the things. It wasn't always like that. Like, there's definitely still a few states like Montana and like even Maine. That Maine is like interesting, but like that like split their tickets a lot. But yeah, like I just can't. We're just so darn polarized right now, and
Yeah.
it's like really hard to see like a Sarah Gideon Donald Trump voter and things like that. Like,
yeah. See, for me, I think the frank approach that Donald Trump needs to take is, one, he needs to emphasize the economy. I know it's not great right now, and I know there are people in pain, but if come the fall the economy can continue to rebound, I think that's going to be a message that a lot of people are going to be like, how have I been doing in the past few weeks? Okay, everything's recovering. It really was just the COVID, and now we're back to that same economy. I don't think it was all that great beforehand, but that messaging of we had this record high economy beforehand, I think that's going to do a lot to help him. And I frankly think he needs to continue to lean in on some of these more kind of like populist independent messaging that frankly, Biden is the embodiment of what the establishment was beforehand. Remember all that pain you were facing.
Exactly, yeah.
Remember that we are continuing to be on this mission and that we were doing great, but then 2018 hit us. We got obstructionist Democrats, and then that led to this COVID crisis where we couldn't even get stimulus bills done because of he'll put it on obstructionism. I don't think that is the case, but I think that is the case for him to still make. And I'd love to hear in your opinions. Do you think that these debates are going to be helpful for either particular side? Grayson, do you think the debates are going to actually make an impact, barring some like huge flop in some way?
Well, usually no, but I'm gonna say I don't think Biden is the most competent person in a debate. Like, I just don't really see it. I mean, when you compare what Trump was like in at least 2016 and what Biden was like in the 2020 debate, Trump was on the offensive. He was just constantly attacking people, often like sometimes multiple people at once. And Biden would sometimes talk about the record player and had some definitely.
Yeah, Biden has had some shaky debate performances. Like, I think he actually, his last debate that he did was actually pretty solid. But then he, as you just alluded to, he has these record player moments. So do you think, Grayson, to clarify, that it's mostly going to be based on how Biden does compared to how Trump does?
I would say it would mostly to do with and how well Biden does, which is strange because historically in debates it was the incumbent that had to do the good job. But we can definitely say I can probably say this that Donald Trump has definitely changed the game in how we view politics.
How about you, Michael? Do you think that this is going to have particular impact for either candidate, these debates? And do you think it hinges on one person's performance or the other primarily?
Yeah, I think it's like really hard. I think it's like pretty hard to say because like for I mean like 2020 is it's legitimately like there's like something new thrown into the Hunger Games like literally every week. it's just insane.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
But I don't know. I really do not see too much of an ability because, like, I mean, both these two have like such literally like 100% name recognition, pretty much, and like. I think that most of us at this point are like pretty darn convinced that we're all right. Like, I mean, people and like we'll do massive like mental gymnastics, and I just can't really see like much of what I don't know. I see Trump as the one that's more likely to bleed in terms of like if he actually like has a huge like screw up. Like if he like we'll see like how he handles like these hurricanes and things like that. That's something that I'm watching like in Iowa and Louisiana. Like especially Iowa like swing state like that could genuinely like affect it. I'm not saying I had many friends like affected by it, and it's the bordering state, and it's actually like really screwed up because it was billions worth of damages. But like sadly, that's gonna be a huge referendum on like his performance. So that's something that like I think that Trump needs to Trump has done everything he can with words, and he just needs to have actions to back it up. Like that's what I'd say.
I kind of agree with you there. Like that is one of the main advantages that you have as an incumbent is that you can do more than words. You can actually take action to try and improve people's lives. One question I wanted to ask you both is, obviously I was focusing on the debates, but do you feel like that there is a sizable undecided base at this point? Or do you feel like most people are locked in? Because I feel like, we've known these people for a long time. We've known who Joe Biden was because he was Barack Obama's VP. And now Trump being the incumbent and him basically being the constant focus of the news, we know who Trump is too. Do you think that there are undecided voters that we should be trying to target? Or do you think it really is an exercise of turning out that existing base? Grayson, how do you feel on that point?
Well, really, any undecided voter at this point is just determining which one is less likely to screw up.
But do you think that's a sizable portion that we should be focusing on, or do you think we should be just focusing more on like organizing and getting out the vote effort?
Organizing, getting out the vote at this point, because I do think that when you look at the polls, some of them do have a lot of undecided, but a lot of them don't. So I think that the best thing to do is to just get out your vote as much as you can.
Okay. And Michael, how do you feel? Do you think we should be targeting more of these undecided, potential, even like swing voters, these like, not necessarily yet never Trumpers, but like more moderate Republican types? Or do you think we should be focusing more on just like getting that organizing going and turning out the base?
I think there's a lot of nuance to this question. I think the first thing I would say for answering this is that like we got to remember that like a third of the country is independent. Like there's a lot of states like where like New Hampshire where it makes up like even like a majority of the population, and so it's a swing state in New Hampshire. Like and it's so I still think that like most of the people are like. I think most are pretty like set on their mind, at least like at a presidential level. I think that at congressional it probably has a lot of room to change because like legitimately like only like for example only like 30% of the population knows who the representative is. That's it. I mean that things like that make me cry, but that's besides the point. Kind of forgot what I was gonna say. It was like pretty compelling, but I don't know. I just think. Oh wait, yeah. So. I think that the Biden campaign has a lot of room to grow. Honestly, in my opinion, like it's kind of partisan-ackery, but like I mean, the Republicans have just dropped the ball like so hard on this like stimulus stuff, and just I mean they're literally just vacationing while half the country like can't pay rent. So I just kind of think the Republicans are wrong and the Democrats should hopefully persevere. But yeah.
Okay, and the last question I wanted to. Oh, go ahead, Grayson. You want to chime in on that?
I have when you mentioned the independents. I just have to bring this up because it's quite weird because I'm seeing polls where Biden has led by like 3-5 points, but then Trump is doing plus independents. I've seen that twice in 2 polls.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Yeah,
I think
it is
personally, Grayson. I'm just hypothesizing here, but in my opinion, I think it's a lot of those people who were Republicans, who were independents, actually changed their affiliation to Democrats. And so then when they tried to find a random sampling, They had to see that there was more people who are now registered Democrats, because we have seen an increase in registration for the party. So I don't know if that accounts for it all. I have some concerns about sometimes the polling methodologies. Maybe it could be off a couple percentage here and there, but that's my hypothesis, because I've seen those polls too, where Trump is winning by pretty large margins, both the independents and the Republicans, and yet Joe Biden still has a lead. So the last question I wanted to ask you both.
I still think it's possible, though. Sorry. Also, I just want to say when it comes to the polls, like literally, if Trump is losing by 3 points, then Trump wins, because like of the electoral college. That's legitimately how it is. So like that's pretty.
That's potentially true. And
So,
that point further, there's this kind of bias that we've certainly heard reported several times, that some people don't want to admit that they're a Trump voter. That they're these kind of like the silent.
That's definitely real, by the way. There's like a bunch of documented cases of it actually being real, and like mayoral stuff and everything that I learned about in political science. But I still think that I think that things like Texas closing down again because of like the COVID response, and I think things like that are gonna make people like really angry, honestly. And there's a lot of people that they can work with to like channel that anger in terms of like down ballot candidates. Like I'm saying, what I'm saying.
So the last question I wanted to end on before going to some of the fan questions is, I just wanted to ask, do you feel like you can make a prediction at this time of who's going to win, or do you just feel like we're way too early out? Do you feel like there is clear indications at this point? Grayson, how do you feel? Is this race decided one way or another, or do you feel like we have too much time left to go?
Honestly, I don't think anyone who claims they know who's like Biden is clearly going to win. That's a bunch of baloney, because we don't know it's just like we don't know what attacks or what defenses are really working and which ones aren't, because like who knows, maybe this radical left Biden thing actually does work somehow. I mean, it actually worked in 1932, so maybe it does work. I don't know, but
okay, Michael, how do you feel? Do you feel like it's too close to call at this point?
Well, like I think it's true that we have a lot to see in terms of the campaign trail. Yeah, it's really gonna amp up. Biden's going out, and he's actually. It seemed like his rally was like generally like well received, like very well received. The first time he did it. So I mean, we'll see how things happen in the future. But true, yeah, Trump's out. I didn't actually watch the Kenosha stuff much today, but I'll have to watch that. With that being said, though, I definitely like have a thing of my electoral college right now. so I think I'm pretty confident in saying that Joe Biden's gonna. I'll just like reflect it. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, we can kind of see it. It's
yeah. It's like, okay, I guess there's that. There's that. There's Tilt Texas being blue, Iowa being blue, all this stuff.
So
sorry, this is really stuffed. I'm on my phone right now, guys. But yeah.
Okay, so you're seeing a Democratic victory, but it's still a little too early to put the nail in the coffin. I
definitely think Biden's going to win, but I mean, I just can't say with 100% certainty, of course, because it's just 2020. Like,
that's fair. And I think, frankly, when you reflect on past election cycles, particularly 2016, where we've had Trump, oh boy, there was late news that came during that election cycle that might have swayed a lot.
October surprise.
I don't want to completely wash it away as the only reason. I think there was a lot of reasons why Hillary Clinton lost. But you can't say that it didn't make any impact, the James Comey announcement at that time of year, that they were putting her under investigation. I think that certainly had an impact on a lot of voters, and you never know what could come in the last few months. Yeah. So that being said, let's go to a couple of fan questions that we have here right now. The first one comes from our own Nelson Orta. He wants to ask you guys, what are your thoughts on the GOP deciding to not have any platform in 2020? Grayson, how do you feel about that?
Not a good idea.
Okay.
And I'm saying this as a Republican, so.
Okay. You didn't like that they didn't have a platform. Why didn't you like that they didn't have a platform?
Well, to be fair, given what the platform was in in the Bush era, it was probably a better platform than that. But I wouldn't say it was. I think you should actually have a platform so voters know what they're actually voting for.
Okay.
Even
Yeah, I
though
mean
it
they
used to
do
be
have a
back in
platform for Trump though. This is more that the
yeah.
GOP didn't have its own separate platform. They basically said, you know what Trump supports, we're on board with that.
I mean, with regards to Trump's platform, it was pretty hit or miss. Some of it was ambitious, some of it was good, some of it was just okay, but why didn't you do that in the first term? That stuff.
Okay. And Michael, how did you feel about the GOP not coming forward with their own independent platform?
Well, first, sorry for having so many caveats, but I just wanted to say with the whole election prediction, this is all like, of course, relying on the fact that on hoping that the post service, the post service is all okay. Because if that's just out of whack, that totally just turns everything on its head. Like I just can't even I can't even anymore. But yeah, also I think that's all I really have to say. But sorry, I have the answer to the question, but can you just repeat it?
Sure. It's what Nelson has on our screen right now.
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts on the GOP not having any platform in 2020?
Yeah, definitely like one of the worst blunders I've ever seen. Like the Democrats won in 2018 because of one word, healthcare. Like my congresswoman always says, like, yeah, the Republicans always say the farmers care about like national security. She's like, no, they literally just want healthcare. That is all they want. And they will vote for you then. And she rode that to a success in 2018 is like surging now and just
so then
I think
Michael, to clarify then, like obviously the GOP is not going to come out with this super comprehensive healthcare platform as they had recently gone through with the executive orders that Trump did, and they're going to try and carry that out with the drug reform. Do you think that they were better not putting forward a platform that didn't include any healthcare? Like, how do you feel about them just going and saying, you know, whatever Trump does, that's what we're going to go and back?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like just the total like allegiance to Trump. I mean, it's just like it doesn't make sense like politically, and it's just not. It just making yourself all like accolades of like a single person. It just does not vibe with me well. But what Trump is like a walking. People say that Biden's a walking gaffe machine, but like every single time like Trump tweets, like people are just like absolutely like furious. Like the moment they see it is like everyone is so incredibly divided, and I just like I don't know. I don't really see how like Trump's supposed to like bring everyone who just if you're like against Trump at this point, it just feels like you're like so against him. That you just cannot, you will not vote for another Republican, really.
Yeah, I think frankly, I don't know if I see it as good or bad for two reasons. Like one, it really depends on how Trump himself does. Like you're very much tying yourself to him.
It's so volatile.
How he goes, so does the Republican Party in general. But on top of that, you know, I have general concerns just about like the exercise of platform building, because at the end of the day, congressional candidates are going to run on their own platform. The president is going to run on his own platform. The party is not going to have any official say. It's not like any president is locked in to say, I'm going to carry out this agenda. And so I feel like largely they're just a useless activity that frankly gives your opponent more material to attack. So I frankly see this as a net neutral. With that being said, let's go to our next question to wrap up on. I think this is a very important question that we'll be certainly looking to address in the weeks ahead. The question goes, you know, hi guys, do you feel like the hardcore Bernie camp who still is refusing to vote for Biden will have a large effect on the voter turnout for the Democratic Party? I'll start with Grayson on this. Grayson, do you think the quote unquote Bernie or bust movement is going to have a sizable impact on this election?
Okay, well, first of all, I just have to mention this if this is okay with you. When I mentioned 1932, maybe I should bring some context into this, if that's okay. If we have time. Is that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so For context, first of all, sorry about this, but in 1932, when it was FDR versus Hoover, FDR took a candidate who we knew was like moderately center right, and this is true, by the way. His vice president actually accused him of leading the nation down to the path of socialism, and it worked, which is ironic.
That FDR was able to frame his opponent as the true socialist. That is a little ironic. I certainly can agree. I will have to look into that myself, but that is an ironic claim. How do you feel about this point, though, here on the Democratic vote turnout from the Bernie or Bust movement? Do you think that'll have an impact?
I honestly still think it's too close to tell. Again, maybe it has an impact, maybe it doesn't. Maybe this is such a small minority it doesn't have any impact. But then again, small minorities is like Michigan's new thing now.
Okay, Michael, do you think it's going to have a sizable impact?
I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure that I can answer that question, but it's a really good one. It's a really good one. The first thing I'd say is that Howie Hawkins is like pulling like absolute trash. Like, again, he has no money. He has no money. He has no like social media or anything. Like he's looking like really bad at doing that. So I think that's like good for think that's good for Biden. But I mean, the other thing I'd say is that you got to remember when Bernie won these states is that he still won them, but in pretty much every case he won them with a plurality. So if these people do not show up, well, I still think that most of them, like legitimately, at least like 90% of them will show up and will vote Democrat probably. Maybe like 10% or something like that. That differs off of that.
So to just put this in a little bit of context for folks out there, like looking at what the impact was in 2016, essentially 25% of the base ended up not supporting Hillary Clinton. And I believe it was something around like 12% ended up flipping to Donald Trump. Obviously, to put that in context more historically, the rates were even higher back when Hillary Clinton had lost to Barack Obama back in 2008. But when you look at the polling this year, it so far looks around like that 79% margin is converting to Democrats. That's 4% more than they did during the 2016 election cycle. And I think we're going to be in a position where it's not going to make as large of an impact, because the second thing is that, well, Bernie also did better against Hillary Clinton. He had more of a base to call upon. He actually had given away some of that base, maybe not willingly, but gave some of that away during the Democratic primary. And so I think, when you're looking at 79% of a slightly smaller base compared to 75% of a slightly larger base, I think that they could make an impact, but I don't think it's going to be as large of an impact as they did in 2016.
Also,
maybe
Bernie
Michigan,
didn't really do well in many of the swing states, really, in terms of. Sorry, I wanted to say, like, I mean, I guess you kind of Iowa. I don't really know. I don't really know what to answer who won Iowa, but Bernie debatably in Nevada, and that's like. And New Hampshire. New Hampshire was pretty good, but also Trump. To be fair, in New Hampshire, Trump had like record turnout there, but it was like Nevada and Iowa, New Hampshire, but none of the like super important ones. Bernie did so much worse in Michigan compared to 2016.
Yeah,
like he literally outperformed the polls by 20 fucking points. 20 points. That is just absurd.
It was a shock back in 2016, but as we said, he did still do worse.
That is like one of the greatest upsets of all time. But then he didn't win a single county in Michigan, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
this time around, like
that's exactly the truth. So I wanted to thank the audience for giving us some good questions to go through. Grayson and Michael, I wanted to thank you both for coming on today. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience, or things that they should go check out? Michael, anything you want to share with everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much. Just thank you as always, John. John is amazing. And as Grayson, I cannot like support both of them enough. Like, they're definitely look into them. They're amazing. I the only thing I can really think of off the top of my head is, I mean, I'm working with a candidate running for Congress. Her name's Danny Brzezowski. Just follow her on Twitter at Danny for Congress. She's amazing, and she's gonna unseat this awful man who's funded by oil and all this jazz. So, and he sucks.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And if you want to check out more info about her, we've had her on the program beforehand, and thank you so much, Michael, for helping us make that connection to have her on. I hope everyone will go check that out if you want to learn more about her. I very much enjoyed my conversation with her, and so I want to thank you for A, coming on today, Michael, as well as B, continuing to support her campaign, as well as help build out our organization. So thank you.
Yeah,
so
no
much.
problem at all. Yeah, I'll just say, like, yeah. Can I just say one thing really?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah. I mean, we still, like you said, October surprise. Who knows what in the world will happen? But at the moment, I think things are looking pretty like daunting for Donald Trump, and like. But also the number one thing he needs to do is to get his Hispanic turnout up. If he that'll be the main like X factor. Like
I do agree with that. That'll help big time with potential.
Like if he can get that up.
Yeah.
Whenever you see him doing well with that, that's when the polls go up.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, that's all I have to say though. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, Michael, thank you so much for being on. Grayson, any final words that you have for the audience or things that they should check out?
Well, all I can really say is vote for whoever you want. That's literally the only thing I can say, other than for one more analysis, is that maybe Biden, he might have an Achilles with the environment. Now, I know it might be controversial to say, but in like the Iron Range in Minnesota, I actually don't see that environmental message actually hurting him instead of helping him, because they feel that environmental regulation would hurt their jobs. So,
okay. Well, Grayson, thank you as always for adding your thoughts and opinions to this matter. We really appreciate you bringing this subject to us today to be able to discuss. So, to the both of you, thank you so much for being on, and we look forward to chatting with you all in the future and continuing to build out the Hill of Roses.
All right, yeah. Take it easy and stay healthy, guys. Have fun watching those Massachusetts results. Let's go.
Yes. Okay, everyone. That was Michael and Grayson. We want to thank them so much again for coming on today to be able to discuss this election cycle. And, as Michael alluded to at the end, we are keeping our eyes on that Massachusetts primary, as our organization has endorsed Alex Morse, as well as Robbie Goldstein and Ed Markey. So we're really rooting hard for those people to be able to pull out their victories. As of the moment, it looks like Ed Markey is going to be able to pull it off. Alex Morse is going to be close down to the wire. And Robbie, it looks a little shaky right now, but we do hope that they all can pull it out at the end. I want to thank you all for tuning in today. It's a pleasure getting to talk to you about what the strategy is from the Republican side so that we can all understand what we need to be doing to properly counter it. With that being said, we have some great upcoming content for you all this week. The first and foremost I want to highlight for you all, and I want you all to take an effort right now to go find that video link that we have on our channel right now and be able to share it out. We're having another candidate supporter debate. It is coming on Friday. It's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and we're going to be featuring supporters of Donald Trump, of Joe Biden, of Howie Hawkins, of Joe Jorgensen, and of Mark Charles. These are always big events. These are always great events when we host these debates. So we hope you will take the opportunity to share it with all your friends so that they can attend live. With that being said, we also have some other content this upcoming week. Tomorrow, we'll be talking with Christy Seelock. She is a person thinking about running for the Senate in 2022. And so we want to talk to her about what inspired her to do that and what she would be running on. And then on Thursday, we're going to be talking with Michael Madrid. He's a congressional candidate in New York's 10th district. He's running as a libertarian. And so we want to be able to have a conversation with him about, what he calls kind of pragmatic libertarianism. And he will be one of our participants actually at our debate. So if you want to kind of get to know him a little bit before he represents Joe Jorgensen, we highly encourage you to come on Thursday. As always, our content is at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We want to thank you all for tuning in today. As always, we hope you guys are staying safe out there. We love you guys for tuning in and helping support this movement. You can find all of our content here on YouTube, on Periscope, and Facebook for our live video content, and as well on Twitch. And then you can find our articles and comics at our website, thehillofroses.com, as well as on our Reddit and on our Twitter. So we highly encourage you all to check out all those. If you like today's video, make sure that you leave a like. Make sure that you help share this out so that more people can hear this Trump strategy video. And finally, make sure that you are subscribed and hit the bell so that you are always notified when a new video comes out. As always, we love you all, and we hope you guys are staying rosy out there.